All right. Welcome in. Toilets to Titles. This is episode number 120. It's the 2022 NFL Draft Recap and React with Shane Hallam at Shane P. Hallam on the Twitter. With me once again, man. I feel like you're always in that chair as my co-host this time of year, man. We have you on so much, and we are so lucky to have you as a friend of the show. Shane, how are we doing this evening?
You're good, man. I know. I'm happy to be back. It's always fun talking to you. It's always chill, and we always have some good conversations. Hopefully, some good info for the good people out there. So
For the good people,
it's been fun.
It's Dynasty rookie draft season, so some of these people listening may be our foes, man. So we're calling them good people, but it's people that we might be going to war with. Speaking of people that went to war with, me and you were in the finals last year. Two different strategies. You were smart. You stocked up on young players, and your roster is super talented. And I went all in. I made about every single move I could. I look at some of the players I got rid of last year, and it hurts. But I did end up winning a ship. But it was very fun facing you. But I'm going to try to take some of the tips you have, because I have pick 12 in that league. So somehow I held on to my first round pick. I don't know how I did it. But I'm going to try to hold on to some of these tips this evening. I want to let everybody know Shane's been crushing it. He's over at draftcountdown.com. You want to go check that out. I believe we already have a 2023 mock. I know for a fact we have a 2023 mock draft because I looked at it. Malachi Moore was not slotted in the Dallas Cowboys selection, but I know that's because where you believe his draft stock should be and where the randomized draft order, because I can read. And I know it was randomized, so I wasn't upset. But really, we're going to see Malachi Moore in Dallas next year. Is that correct?
Look, you called Micah Parsons, so I can't say no anymore when you make those kind of predictions. Because you told me that would happen, I was like, no way. But look, I'll do it. There's going to be at least one 2023 mock where I'll put him in there just for
my
you.
Man.
And I think I have a 2024 mock coming out Monday. So if you want to look 2 years ahead, we'll be there.
So Dallas, I think they had a few safeties on their 30 visit, and Marquise Bell,
signed.
We discussed early on in the process. He reminded me a lot of J-Ron Curse. It was very interesting. They have a type, but they were interested in safety, man. They were looking at a few guys, and I think some of them got taken. I know they were very interested in seeing out of Georgia. So I wouldn't be surprised if next year is the year that we go safety in the draft. So keep that as a note there.
Yeah, no, I will.
All right. Hey, so I want to, like I said, everybody go check out draftcountdown.com. All right. And the Devy Marketplace. Shane is always busy. He's always talking prospects. He's always grinding. And you could tell, man, that Shane needs a break.
I do at some point, but
he needs a break. Well, hopefully these next few weeks, man, because it does get pretty quiet. So enjoy the wave of the Dynasty rookie season, because I feel like in June, early July, there's nothing to talk about. So let's keep riding this wave. Everybody, if you're watching at home, it'd be greatly appreciated if you subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, throw us some comments. If you have Apple Podcasts, a 5-star review would be greatly appreciated. I did say the next person who does a 5-star Apple Podcast review and DMs it to me on Twitter at Coach Sheps is going to get a free entry into Frankenstein, which Shane is in, and he's been in since year 1, and we're going on year 3, and we're trying to up it from 36 teams to, I want to say, 60 teams. So we're going to do 5 12-team divisions. All right. So this thing is pretty crazy. Shane, have you kind of paid attention to some of the tweaks and changes we've been making in there, or what?
I haven't seen yet, because the draft's taking my time, and I'm gonna I'll go back before we get rolling and take a look and see. So I'm excited to see when it all comes out. And I won myself a free entry this year by winning the Toilet Bowl, so I'm excited for that and to compete again.
Did you see the cards that we're working on? I posted them in the chat.
Oh, I don't know if I did.
Yeah,
I did. I did see the cards. Yes.
Yeah, we're working on some monster cards that are going to be draftable. There's going to be 12 cards per each division for 12 teams, and they're going to be draftable. And each card is going to have, like, you can only play it once, and once you play it, it's gone. But this league, if you're not familiar with it, it's vampire style, but there's so many twists. So I wouldn't even say it's vampire style. If you win, you could pick a player from the opponent's roster. You have to give him a player. But now these cards, you're going to be able to take them. So you could take cards. So these cards got all sorts of tweaks. Like one of them is it's like a vampire card where you could play this card and you could take like 20. So if you played it over your wide receiver position, so you got DJ Moore, you're going against let's say you started George Pickens and you're going against DJ Moore. George Pickens had 6 points this week because Shane's a Steelers fan. So I'm going to throw him a bone there and say DJ Moore had like 20 points. You could take 20% of that. So whatever that comes out to be, like 4 points, and that goes away from DJ Moore and goes towards George Pickens. So we got a lot of crazy stuff we're working on. You want to get in Frankenstein, the next person to DM me, 5-star review on the Twitter, gets a free entry in. If you want an entry in, regardless, reach out to me. We will get you in this league. Also, check out toiletsandtitles.com. My Dynasty rookie tiers are going to be going up there tonight. And I believe that Nino, his are probably going to be going up there tomorrow. I'm going to try to get those in there. Steve was asking, I'm not sure if you heard this. He might have came late. But again, Shane, can you tell everybody where they can find your mocks 2023, 2024? Because Steve is hungry.
Yeah, if you go over to draftcountdown.com, we have it laid out pretty well, I think. So on the top, you can see mock drafts. Just put your cursor over that, and it'll give you 23, 24. You can check it out. And by the end of the month of May, I'll have the rankings updated for 23 and 24. I'll end up with a 7-rounder for 23 by the end of the month. So just keep an eye out every week.
All right. So I want to start this thing off by talking about your thought process prior to the draft this year. What were kind of your basic expectations heading into this draft, maybe just heading into this draft class before you started scouting? What were the biggest things on your mind regarding this draft class, this draft?
So the big thing that I mention all the time coming in was that this draft was going to be deep. It's the largest draft class in NFL history. And, we just went through a year where in 2021, which was the smallest. So what that says is every position just about, it's deep. There are players that went in the 6th, 7th undrafted who were better than the 4th-round players that were drafted a year ago. And I think that's important to note, too, from a fantasy perspective, is that those 3rd-round picks that you have might be much better off than you think they will be. And so I've definitely gone in with some strategies of moving down, picking up 23 first, or picking up something that I need. And I feel like I can get similar value in the early 2nd round of rookie drafts in the 3rd round. So that was kind of the overarching thing. Like, this is a deep class, so use that knowledge to your advantage moving forward. I think that's the big thing.
How many of the players that were drafted did you actually scout?
So I missed 2. I missed 2 out of all of them, which I was so mad. I missed
2? You're mad that you missed? That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's absolutely incredible.
So last year was the first year I'd scouted them all because it was a small class. It was kind of easy to do. And this year I felt good. I scouted 1,051 players. Where I went wrong was the Colts and some other teams drafted.
Wait, you scouted how many?
1,051 I watched
this year.
This class. Yes. I have write-ups on every single one over at Draft Countdown. If you want to click on our draft guide, you can go read all of them if you want to. I still missed 2. So the problem is the Colts and a couple teams, 6th, 7th round, just drafted super athletic guys that did nothing, or from know-nothing schools, from Yale and from So next year I got to go back the week before the draft and look at all the RAS scores, and I got to watch everyone in the green that I hadn't watched. So next year I'm getting it. I'm getting every single player, no doubt about it.
1,051. How do you feel about these players, underclassmen, that don't get drafted? Do you think they should be do you have a thought on that? Do you think they should be able to go back and play out their senior season, or do you feel like once they commit to this, they're done?
I think they should be able to go back. I think it would be great. Why not give them a chance to make that decision? I think football works a little bit differently just because of the timeline. If you have this draft in late April and, let's say a Caleb Elby from Western Michigan, the quarterback, didn't get drafted and wants to go back, Western Michigan's already had their spring game. They've already, you're already in the process.
All right, at this point, transfer to a bigger program, try to, increase your stock.
So I think they should be able to, but I don't really, especially with the NIL now, like the big problems, like, they have an agent, or they, I mean, now that's pretty much out the window. Like, why not let them back?
So now we discussed what your thought about this class was prior to the draft. How do you feel it played out compared to what you were expecting?
It wasn't too far off. Ultimately, I think I had 85 out of the top 100, something like that. Maybe not quite that much. Maybe it was like 83. So it played out similarly. Obviously, like everyone, I was surprised the quarterbacks fell as hard as they did. Yeah. I was on the bandwagon of like, hey, these quarterbacks are not going to go as high as people think. Now, I thought my last mock, I had 2 in the first round. I actually got 30 out of the 32 players correct in the first round.
Did you have Tyler Smith?
I had to tell you, he was in there. I had like no one to the right team, but I had them all in there.
Where'd you have them? Tennessee?
Green Bay.
Okay.
So, so I had.
Still, it makes me happy.
I had Traylon Burks
that you had
for the Cowboys, who I still think they would have taken if he was still there.
Right.
At 24. But I had 30 of the 32. One of those 2 was Malik Willis. I had him going to the Steelers, and obviously that didn't happen. And the fact that he fell to the 3rd round, just to me was like, I think what it says is stick to the film a little bit. If a player's not good, teams aren't going to draft them. And that sounds stupid, but this quarterback class, we pumped up, myself included, because they were quarterbacks and there weren't any. Sometimes there just aren't any, and that's okay. And that could be how it goes. And so every position, I think we need to treat that way.
All right. So what were your immediate reactions to day one? All right, like maybe NFL related, fantasy football related. I know you kind of talked about quarterbacks here, but what were your biggest takeaways from day one?
So fantasy wise, I think it was that this receiver group was much more liked. I mean, we're kind of hearing that pretty close to the draft, that these receivers were going to get pushed up. I had some questions because the defensive class was so good, but you saw the NFL feel like there was a big drop off after those top 6, right? Like once Jahan Dotson went fairly early, middle of the first round, a ton of teams that need receivers didn't touch him again. But I think it tells me that those 6 are highly thought of to have gone as high as they have. So I think it's important to note that these receivers feel like they should be a little bit more valued. Am I going to do that in rookie drafts? I don't know, but because there's so many good receivers,
and a lot of them they have tandems now. So it's a lot of these receivers. Traylon Burks, I think he ended up somewhere where he's the guy, but London, Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams, Chris Olave, Jahan Dotson, George Pickens. All of those guys have a young counterpart. Sky Moore and Christian Watson, on the other hand, those guys went a little later, so the draft capital wasn't there. But those guys have maybe a few more question marks on the field, but a few less question marks as far as where they're going to slot in the depth chart. So, it's going to be interesting. It's hard for me. I did my tiers, and my tiers are right now. You can see these on toiletstotitles.com. Tomorrow, I have Drake London and Traylon Burks in tier 1. I got Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams, Chris Olave, tier 2. Sky Moore, Christian Watson, Pickens, and Dotson, tier 3. Danny Gray, Wan'Dale Robinson, Velus Jones, and Jalen Tolbert, tier 4. So it's going to be interesting to see which one of these guys takes an alpha role in their offense. I think we could say Garrett Wilson is going to be the A, and Elijah Moore is going to be the B. But, Drake London and Pitts, that's going to be interesting. And then, Chris Olave, Michael Thomas is there. So it's going to be fun to watch these guys kind of establish their role.
But I think you have to remember, like, especially in today's NFL, teams can support a lot of pass catchers. Drake London having a tight end that's good on his team is not a bad thing.
Right.
It's good for him. Like, I think Garrett Wilson, like I said, the draft capital for Garrett Wilson just says he is the guy. Right. And that's going to be the main focus. And, I think Jameson Williams and Chris Olave will be that way too. I think Jahan Dotson's the only one where you really say, I don't think Terry McLaurin is going out the window. Right. Maybe Michael Thomas and New Orleans for now. Who knows what's going to happen? So, no, I agree. I think it is going to be a balance in these rookie drafts of like, which rookie receivers do you like? Which do I like? They're probably going to be different. And I think it's just about finding where that value is. If you can move around the board a little bit. Personally, like, I'm happy with any of those guys in your first, 2 or 3 tiers. Like, I'll take Sky Moore. I'll take Jahan Dotson. I'll take George Pickens. I'm fine with all.
I'm okay with having like the 9th pick, the 10th pick, and kind of just picking what's left because I feel like the decision is not as difficult. Like top 5, tough choices, very tough choices, especially if in Superflex. You know, we'll get into this, but I don't think Ritter. I have Ritter ahead of Pickett. You're a Steelers fan, yeah, I do. I think I think that the fact that Mike Tomlin said that Pickett's going to have a chance to compete for starting reps is a death sentence. Because if he does not take the job, I think that creates a lot of questions. Because who is he competing with? Mitch Trubisky and Mason Rudolph? I don't think he should have came out and said that. You might feel differently because you're more tied to the program, so maybe you might understand where he's coming from. But I just feel like he shouldn't have put that out there because now if he doesn't win the starting job, I think it looks bad for him.
I'll disagree. Like, he's not going to win the starting job. He's not.
But then why set him up for failure like that?
I mean, they're not. Trey Lance had the same thing. Patrick Mahomes had the same thing.
I don't know.
They had the same thing, right? They got to compete, and they weren't going to win it.
I don't know. Patrick Mahomes was never. I don't know. He wasn't even the first quarterback taken.
That's why Kenny Pickett wasn't taken in the top.
But he was 15. The first quarterback taken, and he's got Mitch Trubisky there with him. It's not Alex Smith, even though Alex Smith was a respected starter.
I think Mitch Trubisky's much closer to Alex Smith than you think. Like I think Mitch Trubisky's much better. He signed a 2-year deal. Like the Steelers were never going to take a quarterback at 20. When you take a quarterback at 20, they are not ready to start.
Then don't put it out there that you're going to give the guy a chance to compete for starting reps. I just think
why wouldn't you give him a chance to compete? What's the problem?
You do give him a chance to compete, but you don't say that because now there's expectations you're setting. 100% for the media, for everybody.
Who cares? What does that matter?
You don't care. You don't care.
Yeah, you don't care. He doesn't care.
No. I'm saying he might.
He won't. If he cares,
how do you know? How do you know Kenny Pickett doesn't care?
Because if he cared, they wouldn't have taken him at 20. If you care enough that that not getting the starting job is going to ruin is going to hurt you.
I think it can affect him, especially like how people view this guy when he's not. Regardless, you see it differently than I do.
Yeah,
I respect that. I just don't know if that was a great decision for Tom because we know that they're going to compete, but I don't know. All right, so clearly, one quarterback went. And he is the most NFL ready right now. And he's got, Claypool. They brought in Pickens. They got Deontay Johnson. They got Najee Harris. So he's in a very good situation there. And what were your immediate reactions to day 2 and day 3?
Yeah, day 2 and day 3 was fun because we had all these receivers, all these running backs. We got to see where the rest of the quarterbacks went. I thought it felt good to see a lot of these receivers. We talked about Christian Watson and Sky Moore, and those guys go early in day 2, go in the second round. I thought it was interesting to see what running backs kind of got pushed up. I thought the running back order was weird to me. But I kind of figured it'd be slightly unexpected. But Isaiah Spiller falling to day 3 was pretty surprising.
Yeah.
And even the receiver. I mean, we always have a couple random receivers just go day 2 that we didn't expect, and having Wan'Dale Robinson and Tyquan Thornton. And it was interesting. And then I think the tight ends too is, I don't know how to approach the tight end position from this class. I think the situation for McBride maybe is good long-term, but for 2 years, he's not going to be he's going to be the tight end 2 on a team. It's just, you're not going to do anything. And then once again, it's a really deep group. And so you have some good situations there in, our league that we were talking about. It's a 2 tight end league. Like we really need 2 tight ends to compete in that league. Right. Taking a chance on a Greg Dulcich or Jelani Woods becomes a lot more attractive. So I do think, once again, I think it's a deep group. I think third round picks in these rookie drafts, especially Superflex, is going to be pretty valuable.
The Ravens are stocking up on tight ends, man, with Isaiah Likely, Charlie Kohler. They got Mark Andrews. The Ravens are going to be running 3 tight ends out there. So who, you had to say your top 2 or 3 favorite draft classes from this year. Which teams, in your opinion, absolutely crushed it?
You mentioned the Ravens. I think everyone's saying.
How did they get Lindstrom and Kyle Hamilton? Like how does the NFL allow them to get those players?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sorry, not Lindstrom, Linderbaum.
Yeah, Linderbaum. It's about positional value, right? These teams they wanted the receivers, they wanted the offensive linemen, and so the Ravens, they're fine taking that value and taking the best player in Kyle Hamilton at a position in need, and then to trade Marquise Brown away and move and get Tyler Linderbaum. Once again, he wasn't got a lot of teams probably didn't have him on their board because of the short arms. Ravens will make it work. I mean, even day 2 and early day 3. I mean, David Ajabo was probably going to be a top 15 pick before he blew out his Achilles, and then Travis Jones, the defensive lineman from UConn, I'd rated as a first round pick. They got him in the 3rd. It's just wild. And then that 4th round, like I like Kohler and Likely. I like
Likely a lot.
Jalen Armour-Davis, the corner from Alabama they drafted, I think is a perfect fit. And Daniel Falele is just the Aussie sensation, 385 pounds, right? I mean, to get him in early day 3, I just think it was killer. It was really good. And then I'll go with the 2 New York teams. Now it's easy when you have 2 top 10 picks, I guess.
Right.
It feels a lot better.
Yeah, but you could still shoot and miss.
Yeah. I mean, if we want to talk about the worst ones, I can talk about Jacksonville. You get the first pick and whatever. But I mean, the Jets, you get Sauce, my top cornerback 2. You get Garrett Wilson, my top wide receiver 2. You get Jermaine Johnson, the guy I had rated as a top 12 pick at 26. You jump Houston to get Breece Hall, my RB1 best running back in this draft. You get a top 4 tight end on my board and Jeremy Ruckert. I mean, it's a slam dunk to me.
I'm excited to watch that offense this year.
It could be really good if the offensive line holds up. Like, there's a lot of potential there if Zach Wilson develops to be like really good.
Yeah, because Breece Hall, he's going to take such a load off of his shoulders. Breece Hall is very talented. And then now you got dynamic wide receivers with Wilson. I like Elijah Moore and I like Ruckert. I have Ruckert as my tight end too. Post draft. So. I do think
I wish the playing time would be better for him. Like, he's going to be the 3rd tight end on that roster for a little bit. But I mean, I think he's good. So I think it's a good call.
All right. So you got the Giants too, man, getting Neal and Thibodeau. Thibodeau was he your number 1 going into the draft?
Thibodeau was my number 1 and Neal was my number 2 in the entire class. And they got both of them. So like, I don't care what else you do. That's a win to me.
Right.
And I think a lot of the bashing of some of the other picks, I mean, maybe Wan'Dale Robinson was a little early, but I think that could work out for them. And then,
I mean, you can afford to reach when you crush your first 2 picks like that. You can go with upside, if you believe it's Wan'Dale Robinson,
And I think it's about too, like, getting more weapons on a team that really does lack them. They weren't going to get the quarterback here, right? So you might as well have that weapon in place. And Josh Ezeudu, their 3rd round pick, a lot of people are bashing, but he was going to be a top 100 pick. I had him in my top 100. Like, he's going to go in the 3rd round. So, I wouldn't worry about that. And I think one of the underrated tight ends is Daniel Bellinger. They took in the 4th round, was a blocking tight end from San Diego State, bonkers athlete, can be a good pass catcher, showed some soft hands at the Senior Bowl. I think I don't know. Like, it's a round 4 pick. He's probably not going to win the starting job, but is Ricky Seals-Jones really who we want to, back here? Right. I think Bellinger could have a role.
All right. Awesome. All right. Off the top of your head, what players did you see? This player went here. This was his draft capital. This is where he landed up. Who are your biggest risers after the draft?
That's a really good question. Let me look at my list here. I mean, I honestly, I think Alec Pierce is a big one to me, and okay. I feel like, and I feel like maybe I'm alone. Like, I might be alone in that from looking at some of these like ADPs and things. So if I am, so be it. But I mean, for Alec Pierce to go, kind of where he went for the Colts to be the first pick they made in the 2nd round. He has the height, weight, speed. He has the experience, and they have a huge need opposite of Michael Pittman, right? Like, I don't know. To me, that's a big riser. He's into my top 15. I mean, I'd always take him there because people don't seem to be valuing him, but I think that's important. I'll say too. like Dameon Pierce, I think becomes really interesting. Getting drafted to Houston. It was in the 4th round, so I'm maybe
with the running back. I feel like a 4th round pick. I feel like you move them up around. Like a 4th round running back is like a 3rd round wide receiver, because of the value. Like you're not taking a running back in the 1st unless he's like once in a decade, No,
I think it's a good point with him, because they also took him at the 2nd pick of that round. Right. So it's like, okay, if he would have been picked 3 picks earlier, do I feel differently? I probably shouldn't.
I think Dameon Pierce was one of the guys that was talked about consistently, like the waves with him, right? There's flavors of the month during, the NFL draft season. There's guys that, James Cook had a month, Algier early on, Rashad White. So Dameon Pierce, I feel like, was one who people were very consistent about, from the Senior Bowl on. There was people who really liked him. And so I think the value's there. I think that's a great guy to get your hands on. Where do you see him going in rookie drafts?
He's starting to tick up into the mid-2nd round. It wouldn't even surprise me if he ends up as like a 201, 202 kind of pick here pretty soon. But I have him ranked 24th in Superflex and Superflex. But I'm still debating. I think between him, Isaiah Spiller, and Brian Robinson, like it's super close to me, and I probably want to get some shares all 3 of those guys.
And Pierce can block.
Yeah, he's big, he's tough,
So he's going to get on the field. Like if you could block, as a rookie, there's really nothing holding you back. As long as you can understand the playbook, you're going to get on the field.
Yeah, I think that's the key. And his competition, Marlon Mack and Rex Burkhead, it's not anything to write home about. So, right. I mean, I feel good. I had him in my top 100 before the draft. He ended up going at 107. So pretty close to that.
What do you think about Velus Jones going to Chicago? Supposedly Justin Fields, handpicked him. And this guy's a major athlete, and there's going to be balls to be caught there too. I know I like Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney is super explosive, big time, playmaker. But I think this guy, he can do a lot of the stuff close to the line of scrimmage, over the middle of the field. How do you feel about Velus Jones after the draft?
I like him more than consensus. I have him as an early round 3 pick in Superflex, and I think he's falling to round 4 in most of those drafts. So I think he's an absolute value. I mean, Tennessee, they just didn't have a good quarterback, didn't throw the ball that much. We saw that with Josh Palmer, who looked okay for the Chargers last year, and Velus Jones is better than him. People knock the age that he's older, but it doesn't really matter that much. Like you said, Justin Fields got to make a list of receivers he was comfortable with. This is one of them. He's got to get on the field as a special teams guy, return guy, and I think he has the speed to do some things. He's pretty good after the catch. I don't know. I just don't see how he's not at least in 3 receiver sets for them, and I think that's huge for an offense that doesn't have enough weapons.
3rd round pick. Another 3rd round pick was Jalen Tolbert to Dallas. What are your thoughts on Tolbert?
I'm a fan. I think it's a great fit. I don't know how you feel about it, but I think
it reminds me of when they took Gallup. I know we already have Gallup on the roster, but Gallup was a 3rd round pick at Colorado State. Great body control. I feel like he doesn't play as fast as he ran at the combine, but I feel like he's a technician. I think he's going to fit right in with Dak.
Yeah, but he gets down the field. I think that he kind of long strides some of those deeper passes. Like you said, not quite as fast as he timed, but I don't think he's too far off to give you a little bit of edge over that defense. I think Jalen Tolbert can. I really loved his curls. I really loved his out routes. I thought he had a decent route tree for a school. South Alabama, the quarterback play with Jalen Tolbert was god awful. I mean, it's some of the worst that I've seen of any receiver in this class. And he produced. So to me, that's a big win.
He's pretty rocked up too. The dude's jacked.
Yeah,
solid wide receiver. All right. So who were your biggest fallers after the draft? Who were some guys you thought maybe you don't like their landing spot or you don't like the draft capital?
Yeah, I mean, obviously outside of the quarterbacks, I'll knock basically all of them outside Kenny Pickett, and even then, it's like you don't feel great about any of these quarterbacks, right? So outside of that, in terms of falling far, let me go down my list. I mean, honestly, I don't think anyone really killed expectations for me too much that I still have ranked decently. I think Trey McBride I mentioned before. I think that was one. If you would have went to the Giants, if you would have went to a team that had an opening at the number one tight end spot, and you feel like he's going to take it, I mean, he's going to be behind Zach Ertz. I like the passing in Arizona, but that's just killer to me. And it makes this tight end class just feel a lot worse. And I'm not super hyped up about it.
Well, especially when Jalen Weidermeyer fell off the face of the earth, a few months ago. It didn't help this class.
Yeah, and you're like, come on. I'll say a guy I didn't love coming in, and then I don't really love the landing spot. And let me know if you disagree, because I think people do, is John Mechie going to Houston. Yeah. It's like, oh, there's opportunity there, right? You have Brandon Cooks, and there's not much else, and he went in the high second round. But I still think he's a complimentary receiver only. And I think Davis Mills is better than people think, but it doesn't mean he's a good starting quarterback. And so if that changes, Houston's not a team with multiple firsts next year. Like, John Mechie could really end up, plus the injury. I think there's just a lot. The landing spot, I don't think it's as good as it might look on paper to me.
What about Brian Robinson going to Washington? What are your thoughts there? Being there with Antonio Gibson, you think he's the better player? You think there's going to be an even split there? What are your feelings?
I like it. I think he's one of those guys that's going to get left behind because people see Antonio Gibson and say, "Wow, Brian Robinson." Or there's a lot of talk. Brian Robinson isn't that good. I mean, he produced multiple years in the SEC. He's not the fastest, not the most explosive. But it's a kind of running back they didn't have there. We saw Gibson and J.D. McKissick.
Right.
Now you have a guy that can plow through the line, that I think has some ability to get through the line and score touchdowns and get short yardage. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if Brian Robinson ends up being more consistent than Antonio Gibson and has a little bit more success. So I'm down to take Brian Robinson at the end of the second round of rookie drafts and taking a shot. I think he's in that mix with Isaiah Spiller and Dameon Pierce as kind of the next best of the rest.
How about Kenneth Walker and James Cook, two other guys? I think Cook, he's in a good situation. It's really, Moss and Singletary, but neither of them have been great, I would say. So he should get an opportunity, but there's still kind of crowded. And then with Kenneth Walker, I know Carson's banged up, but you got Penny coming back. So these are two guys that are in, tough situations. So, I mean, but they were both taken in the second round. So, that's solid draft capital. So what are your feelings on Kenneth Walker? And then let me know how you feel about James Cook.
I love Kenneth Walker. I think he's my 102 behind Breece Hall, which I know is high, but Chris Carson, I might get cut after in June. And then Rashad Penny, who played well last year, is only on a 1-year deal. I think if we were not fantasy people, we would like this situation a lot more than we do, because we saw Penny explode, or he won me a championship, right? And so we think Penny. And
I was really down on him, so I was talking shit the week before he went off. I was like, this dude's a bum. I had him in my duds list, and then I gave him an apology on air, so I'm gun shy, to throw dirt on him.
Look, I've drafted some Penny and some best balls. Like, I felt good about it, but I think Kenneth Walker is a better pure rusher. People always say, well, Penny was drafted in the first round and he didn't get to play. Well, Chris Carson was there, had on a rookie deal as a pick, and honestly, Rashad Penny was a lot more raw coming out than Kenneth Walker is. I mean, Kenneth Walker played in the ACC and in the Big Ten and has these big plays, is maybe the best pure runner of this class at running back. And at the combine showed he could catch passes. I think there's a lot to like. James Cook is tough for me. I just don't know if he's a complete running back, and maybe that's fine. Maybe for PPR, he's going to be good, and they'll use him in the passing game a ton, and it's going to run through Josh Allen anyway. But I almost like Rachaad White in Tampa Bay just as much. Like, it feels worse because Leonard Fournette's there, but they're both just really good pass catchers. I think that's what they're going to be. I'm going to have a little James Cook. I already do, but I'm not super thrilled about that spot as much as some people.
How do you feel about Zamir White in Vegas? I know you're an Ohio State guy. They declined the 5th-year option for Josh Jacobs. So, I mean, I know it was a 4th-round pick, but I think he's fresh. Given that he did share touches in college. I see it as I like him more, I think, than most people like him right now. And I'm trying to come out of a lot of drafts with Zamir White because I think within a year or two, I think that backfield could be his.
I do like him. I think you're right. I think he's worth grabbing. I think like when you start hitting that late 2nd round, early 3rd round rookie drafts, any of these running backs, the Zamir White, Tyler Algier, like just grab them.
Yeah,
good situation.
I'm not mentioning Algier because I was high on him, and then he ran like a 4.6, 4.7, and I wasn't feeling too good. I wasn't hearing much buzz on him. I see him going the 5th, but I'm secretly going to be stashing a lot of Algier because I like him. And that Atlanta Falcons, man, he's going to have availability. He's going to get touches there.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Davis got cut, like expendable now. Yeah, I'm with you. But no, I do like Zamir White. Like you said, Josh Jacobs won't be there. Kenny Drake will be a free agent in a year. If Zamir White shows something, he has a shot to, win that job in a year. And even if it's like a Michael Carter situation, they draft another guy. I mean, the value still, if you drafted Zamir White, where you going to get him in rookie drafts, I think it's going to be a value. He's just such a smart running back now after those knee injuries that he plays tough, but is really smart and has good vision.
Right, and I do also need to mention you got to either get one of either Pierre Strong or Kevin Harris because the way the Patriots run the football, one of those guys is going to at least have 2 RB1 weeks because they just divvy it around. I can't tell you when it's going to happen, but it's definitely going to be one of those 2 guys, and I don't know which one it is, but just pick whoever's available. All right, let's go back to wide receivers. I think Christian Watson and Sky Moore both fit perfectly into what their team like. I think if you would have swapped where they landed, I wouldn't like it so much. I like Moore. He fits into what Kansas City's looking for, and I like Watson. Like Watson stretches the field, big body. I think it'll be very easy for Aaron Rodgers to throw this guy open, especially given his speed. It's just with Watson, I think it's going to come down to, notice with Rodgers, he wants his young wide receivers. He gets frustrated when they're not where they're supposed to be. So he needs to earn his trust at camp this year and show him that he could run the NFL route tree and run whatever they're trying to make him run in their offensive scheme. And once he earns that trust, with that frame, I think it'll be easy for Rodgers to throw him open. And then just Sky Moore. I think Sky Moore is gritty. I think he's tough. He's explosive, and he's fun to watch. And he plays the game with an attitude like, coming from a smaller school. I'm very excited to watch Sky Moore in that offense. He's somebody who, after watching his film, it's really easy to root for him, just because the passion he plays the game with. I was a huge Des Bryant fan, still am. And I know they're not built the same, but you could see after some of Sky Moore's catch, like he embraces the challenge. Going up for a ball, being smaller than somebody, coming down with it, running through somebody's face. So, I'm really excited to watch him in that offense. What are your thoughts on these 2 guys?
I think they're both intriguing. I'm a big Christian Watson fan, but I'm with you. Like, I'm a little hesitant for year 1 for the Pack. Like, I almost feel like maybe I shouldn't draft him and then try to trade for him in a year or something, if they don't utilize him. But the opportunity's there. And I think what he showed at the Senior Bowl, route running and route tree wise, really amped me up for what he could be. I was a big fan of him as an athlete, a late bloomer, but I was like, whoa, he has the footwork that they did not ask him to do. So I have him very high in my rankings. Sky Moore, local kid here. I saw him play high school football.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah. New Kensington and near Pittsburgh here. It is what you said. I think he has some of that explosive ability. I wish he wouldn't have gotten hurt against Michigan. I really wanted to see how that game would have played out because I think that would have been very telling of how he's going to compete against, against NFL teams.
We fall for Western Michigan wide receivers often.
Yeah.
Here, like Corey Davis, Dwayne Eskridge. I even fell for a running back. Was it Levante Bellamy? Yeah. Was that his name? I don't know if I'm getting the last name correct.
Yeah, you got that's correct.
They've had some dudes come out of there, but since so far nobody's hit. Corey Davis has been a solid NFL player, but not as good as advertised.
And I honestly, maybe this is dumb, and I have Sky Moore a little bit lower than the consensus. I mean, still my top 12. Like I still take him, but I don't think Brett Veach can draft skill position players. Like CEH was just a bad pick. I mean, maybe Cole Hardman was just a bad pick. I like taking Tyreek Hill in the 5th round is different from taking a player in the top 100.
But I feel like Sky Moore he was like the last available. So it might be that situation where he kind of lucks into a player because he didn't really have his pick of the litter,
Yeah, no, that's a good point. It could be. So, I hope I get a couple shares of him because, like with the Chiefs, I mean, it feels great. If he becomes the number 1, he's going to be
people are going to be taking him early. So, he might be over. Like I hear what you're saying. He's not somebody where I think you're going to be able to get him in the 2nd. And then if he pays off, like it's great you got him. You're going to have to pay up for him. Right. Another guy I really like at SMU, Danny Gray, who ends up in San Francisco. We don't know what's going on with Brandon Ayuk. Not a similar player in a sense of, going to play that running back role, but similar in the sense of when you get the ball in his hands, this dude can take it to the house. Like he's a lightning bolt, very exciting, explosive. And you mentioned it, I mentioned it. We both compared him to Deontay Johnson. What are your thoughts of Danny Gray ended up in San Francisco? Is he immediately over Brandon Ayuk? Brandon Ayuk started the season in the doghouse last year. So if Debo's gone, is it Gray and Ayuk, or you think he's going to have to earn his stripes?
I think he's going to have to earn it. I mean, I think he's got to beat Juwan Jennings first. I think it might be, I think it might get too excited, but I do see the potential. I mean, I'm with you. I like what he potentially can do off the line of scrimmage as a starter. In kind of that explosive mold. I mean, I think it's going to be a lot like what they do in Arizona, where they have these receivers kind of slot in certain spaces. I think Danny Gray is going to be Debo's backup, right? He's going to, be Debo's backup. And if Debo goes down, then that's what Danny Gray is going to do. Maybe not to that extent, but have that ability. So yeah, I'm a little bit excited. I think he's a little bit underrated. I think both the 49ers, Tyrion Davis-Price as well, who was picked fairly early, picked in that 3rd round. I think the 49ers taking those 2 skill guys, if you get either of those in round 3, I think you got to be pretty happy.
Just continuing to restock skill position players, man. Like they already got it seems like a dozen of them. They got running backs at the wazoo, and they just continue to restock. Got to applaud them for that. Speaking of restocking, Pittsburgh Steelers, they get George Pickens. He's an alpha. Does this mean Chase Claypool is gone after this season? Like, do you think like they're just the 3 of them are going to be out there? They're going to be eating. This is a long-term thing. What are your thoughts for George Pickens in that offense?
I mean, I'm excited. I do think it means Chase Claypool's gone in 2 years. I think that, when his contract's up, they'll probably let him go. I imagine they still signed Deontay Johnson to a big deal. But you still have that 3rd role that there's no one to fill. I mean, George Pickens is going to fill that. Like he's got to get on the field, so I have trouble ranking him because I'm like, in a lot of ways, I like him maybe more than Chris Olave and Sky Moore and Jahan Dotson long-term. I mean, the Steelers hit on those day 2 receivers. Like if you just took every day 2 receiver, you gain value. So I
got him right there with Moore and Watson. I have him in tier 3, right ahead of Jahan Dotson.
Yeah, which I think is fair. I'm a little lower on Olave, I think, but I think that like we said, that late 1st round is fine. Like just give me whoever's left of those guys. I'm happy.
Man, I loved watching George Pickens play. I'm glad he's healthy. It's a shame. Look at Justin Ross, where he goes undrafted. Do you think he's got a chance to catch on? Like from what you saw from him this year, you think he's still got it? You think it's coming back, or you think he's kind of just a shell of himself and he's going to phase out?
No, I doubt we see much of Justin Ross going forward. And it's not just a neck injury. I mean, he had multiple injuries last year that had nothing to do with that. I think going through that treatment can wear you down. And he wasn't the same player. He didn't have the explosion. He didn't have, he's not the same player anymore. And it sucks. Like, it sucks. I mean, I drafted him in high school. When he was in high school, I drafted him in the Devy League. Right? I'm losing out on that deal when it looked like I had a stud in the making. So I hope he can make it. I mean, I'll be the biggest fan if he does. But I don't feel great about it.
Are there any undrafted guys that you're excited about that you're going to be rostering that you think do have a chance to come on and make an impact on the offensive side of the football?
Yeah, I'm a really big fan of Abram Smith, the running back out of Baylor. Who
Where'd he go?
He went to the Saints, which I
Okay.
think is a good spot, right? I mean, outside of Alvin Kamara, I don't think there's anyone on the Saints, and I'm like,
And he only played running back 1 year in college, correct?
Right.
So he played linebacker last year, had over 100 tackles, I believe.
Yeah.
And then this year moves to running back, has over 1,000 yards on the ground.
Kills it. I mean, he single-handedly beat Oklahoma. Yeah, like
but you got to give him something for being able to transition to like that at a big level. That's why I was surprised. I didn't see him. So he went to New Orleans. Very interesting.
Yeah, so I think that's a really nice spot that I like. Jayshon Corbin, the Florida State running back, went to the Giants, who they were looking pretty hard at running back with the visits and everything. So it wouldn't surprise me if he makes the team as the RB3 and, has a shot to kind of come up. Wide receiver wise, let me see where I'm at with the receivers. Yeah, I kind of like Reggie Roberson, the SMU receiver, went to the Tennessee Titans, which I think they have some openings there we talked about. So, I mean, Roberson, very accomplished, just had injury. He got hurt this past year. I think that knocked him down. I also like Kevin Austin, the Notre Dame receiver, big, fast, went to Jacksonville, who needs some weapons. So I think, I think those guys are they're my highest ranked.
What about Carson Strong?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a Carson Strong fan, but to get him undrafted, I think it's pretty good. Like I would have taken a shot, late, and there's some reports. I don't know if I believe them, but the Steelers, that was their second choice. Essentially, was Carson Strong. They would have taken him at some point in the draft had they not gotten Kenny Pickett. I don't know if it's true, but if so, I mean that's good. He went to Philadelphia, and I think if Jalen Hurts does go down and Strong wins that backup job, becomes really intriguing. I also like Caleb Ellaby going to Seattle, the Western Michigan quarterback. I think fits there well and could win a roster spot. And even EJ Perry, who was supposed to go to Philly, now is going to Jacksonville. The quarterback from Brown is a runner, has a decent enough accuracy. So yeah, Strong, crazy to see him fall completely out of the draft. But the big injuries like those knees, it's not good.
Yeah. All right. So let's quickly move on to 2023. We talked about, you got your mock up already. Who are your top skill position players? Like so all right, who's your QB1? Is it Bryce Young or is it Stroud?
I went with CJ Stroud. So it's tough, but I think I'll take kind of the size. I'll take the guy that's 6'3", 215 over the guy that's 6 foot 194. And that could change. I think Bryce Young, I think they're both exceptional. I mean, give me either one.
Bryce Young, you told me about, I want to say 2 years ago when we were talking Debbie when he was coming in. So I have him on my roster. So thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I have him on one too. So I'm hoping, he smashes again this year, but I think there was just the size is a question. So I put Stroud above him, but I think it's, 1A, 1B.
All right. What running backs? Who's your number 1 and number 2 next year?
I mean, Bijan Robinson, the running back from Texas, is going to be a first-round pick. There's little doubt in my mind. I know everyone's like, oh, it's a running back, but I think we're going to at least have 2, if not more. I have 3 in my mock going in the first round. I think this is a big-time running back class. I mean, Robinson, 6 foot 215. He's big. He can catch. He's athletic. He moves in space. Like he's complete. A little straight line speedy. Not but I think he's really good. And then Jahmyr Gibbs, the Georgia Tech running back, transferred to Alabama. So now you're getting a guy that's an absolute stud, who probably the best pass-catching running back that I've seen in a while, and he's going to Alabama. So he's going to be, if he bulks up to like 205, I mean, he's going to be really good. And then Zach Evans, the running back from Mississippi, transferred there from TCU. Once again, if he bulks up to 200, I'll feel really good about him. I mean, he just had success. TCU, you knew they were hitting him the ball. He was wrecking defenses. Now you put him in the SEC. I think it's going to go really well. So those are my top 3 guys, and I think there's a nice tier break after those 3.
What about wide receiver? Who are your top guys there?
Yeah, so number 1, I have Jackson Smith-Njigba, the wide receiver from Ohio State.
Everyone should know about him.
I mean, the fact that he like completely whipped Chris Olave in terms of production. He's so good playing from the slot, playing outside, body control, and after the catch does a lot. My number 2 is still Kayshon Boutte from LSU. Had some injuries last year, kind of didn't come back. I think he's super talented. I just want to see it kind of come out for him and see him play again. But LSU's kind of a mess. And then the next 2, I'll go quick. Quinn Johnston, that's my number 3 from TCU. 6'4", 193, like big, fast, is tall. Jordan Addison, now probably going to Southern Cal, the wide receiver from Pitt, won the Biletnikoff last year. I think made Kenny Pickett look a lot better than Kenny Pickett is. I'll say that. Josh Downs from North Carolina is kind of the small slot Elijah Moore type, very productive. And then watch out for Jermaine Burton, receiver from Georgia, transferred to Alabama. He's going to fill that Jameson Williams role. And that usually spells draft capital when a guy goes there.
All right. And then my last question, Arch Manning or Quinn Ewers?
Oh, that's a good question. As high school players, I would take Quinn Ewers. I think Quinn Ewers was the better high school player. We'll see how it shapes out in college, but nothing freshman year from Quinn Ewers doesn't help. I'll still go Quinn Ewers, but I think both are going to be pretty darn good.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, you crushed it once again. We are very grateful to have you on. Everybody go check out draftcountdown.com. Check Shane out on the Twitter at Shane P. Hallam. He absolutely crushed it this draft season. He's going to have a little bit of downtime here now, but stay tuned for his 2023. When does the 2024 mock come out?
I'm going to have one on Monday. So 2024 mock will come out then. And then, like I said, by the end of the month, I'll have a 7-round 2023. So I got a couple guys I got to watch, and then we'll get that rolling. All
right. And Shane's getting ready he's going to scout every single player in the 2023 NFL draft. It's happened. You heard it in your first. Yes. All right, check out toiletstotitles.com. I mentioned my tiers earlier on the show. My rookie tiers are going to be up there tomorrow. Nino's are probably going to be up there within 24 hours from that. If you're watching at home, please hit the subscribe button, throw us a like, throw us some comments. If you're on Apple Podcasts, 5-star review. Remember what I said. The next person to DM me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts gets a free entry into Frankenstein. And if you want to support the show, patreon.com/toilets to titles. We got 3 tiers, $3, $5, $10. Go to that website, check it out, and they'll tell you what you get for each tier. So Shane, appreciate you for coming on. Everybody who's been following us throughout this off season, all of the draft season, I appreciate you for coming on. Make sure to stay tuned. We're going to help you crush Dynasty Rookie Draft season. Me and Shane, we have a Dynasty Rookie Draft coming up tomorrow morning. Yeah. All right. Hey, do you have a pick in the first round?
I traded Dalvin Cook for the 105. Probably not a great value trade, but I'm excited.
Yeah. When did you do that?
Yesterday.
Oh man, so post-draft. So you
post-draft. I made the move. I said, look, I think in a year I'm going to be happy with that trade.
Did you do that with Rich?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Rich posted that in the Toilets Titles chat looking for advice.
And everyone, I'm glad everyone told him to smash that accept. Thank you, Toilets and Titles chat, for giving me a 105.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you go. Everybody listening at home, I'm going to let you go. I appreciate you. Have a good evening, and we'll catch you all next week. Take care.